Greetings. I am Indona Sananda Kumara. Today we share a beautiful chat with author E.T. Bowden. She happened to stumble upon her craft while occasionally documenting and questioning many of her long-held, privately concealed, profoundly mystical life experiences. In A Spiritual Affair, her very first book, she shares with us a beautifully captivating story of divine love and self-discovery. And while creative liberty has been taken, this remarkable work of fiction has its roots in reality, all based on actual events from her very own life. Her story is one that will challenge the logical mind with great potential to expand consciousness, presenting many topics which give credence to that which exists beyond the physical plane. So, we invite you, within this now moment, to take a deeply centering breath, drawing your awareness into the sacred space of the heart in openness to receive.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ernestine E.T. Bowden, and I'm the author of this book, A Spiritual Affair, a Love Story. I've lived most of my life in Mississippi, Texas, and now Louisiana. And I've always been a very spiritual person and connected to a lot of things that people think are out of the ordinary.
Well, thank you. I am so excited for everyone to get a glimpse or a snapshot of this book. This book is called A Spiritual Affair, and it's a very captivating book. It's one of those books that you'll grab, start reading, and you literally will not be able to put it down because it just holds your attention in that way. It's not unlike many things that happen to many people. It seems fantastical when you haven't allowed yourself to embrace all of the infiniteness that happens within this creation. But this is one of those books that lends itself as evidence of those things that happen when you get out of your way, get out of your logical mind, and just allow the world to exist and be as it is and accept things as they come. And so, with that, before we get into the meat of the book and pull out a few of those teachable moments, because we really want you to get this book because it's really a great read. I want to allow Miss Ernestine, which is what I call her, Miss Ernestine, to share a little bit about her background and growing up and some of the experiences you had as a child.
Well, growing up, I grew up mostly in the country, and I experienced seeing a lot of things that were extraordinary. I was really connected with what I'm gonna call spirits. As a child, I could see things that other people couldn't see. I could hear things that other people couldn't hear. So I decided along the way, really just not to tell anyone about my experiences because I thought people tend to think I was crazy, something like that. So I kept most of my experiences to myself. So I think I'm very connected with the spiritual world. But in this book, the book that I wrote, this was a very, very special connection. And I really felt the need to tell the story.
Did you have anybody you could have spoken to about the experiences that you had as a child? Like, was your mother tapped in or your father tapped in? Did you feel comfortable going to them to talk about any of the things that you experienced?
My mom was always tapped in. Actually, I can remember a time when my mom, I could see lights, just big lights coming down the hallway, and I would call my mom. This was after I was a grown person in my 20s. And I would call my mom. I always call her and tell her the lights were here. She would always tell me to go outside. Go outside and wait until they leave. That was always her answer to that. She was always tapped into, and I could talk to my mom about my spiritual events, and she believed me. She always believed me because I think she was very spiritual. So she mostly believed everything I said as a child. Even the time when I saw the lady at the end of the road and I was about to step out in front of a car going about 100 miles per hour, and the lady said, "Get out of the street." And I turned around, the lady was gone. She was nowhere to be seen, but she saved my life. So I went back home and told my mom about it, and she only said, "What did she look like?" And I told her, and she told me who she was.
Wow. Was she somebody your mom had known?
She was someone my mom had known, but she had passed away. And my mama told me who she was, and she didn't say anything else. It was like, to her it was nothing. To her it was normal. And I think I was the only one that had though that possessed that kind of feelings and spiritual things like my mom. I think my mom never talked about it, but I think every time I told her about all my different experiences as a child, um, I told her one time I must have been about 4 years old. You remember Angela? I told you I remember everything. And I was standing in a chair and I was playing with the light switch. And I was turning the light on and off, on and off, on and off. And all of a sudden, this lady appeared right in front of me and she said, "Don't play with that light." And she was gone. And I told my mama, I got down and my mom said, I said, "The lady told me not to play with the light switch." And she said, "What did she look like?" That's what she always asked me. And I
Mm.
told her what she looked like. And then she said, "Oh, that was your grandmama."
Real matter of fact, right?
Like
Yeah.
it was nothing to my mom. If I told her I had any kind of spiritual experience, anything, she was real calm about it, and she always believed me. She always believed me. She never said I wasn't telling the truth. She always believed anything I said about the spiritual world. She always believed me.
Yeah, I think that goes a long way in making sure that children stay open, right? Like, because I say this all the time that children come into the world open, they just get it programmed out of them, thinking that this side, the intuitive side of themselves, is something that they shouldn't possess. Like, that's something that's a program that's infused or introduced upon children. But if you encourage it, if you allow it to be what it is, as it is, treat it as a matter of fact type of thing, then it remains in place and we maintain that connectedness to the spiritual side of ourselves. And we can see those things that come to assist us when we need assistance, because you got assisted all over the place.
Yeah, I did, and I can tell you a story about my youngest daughter. She came into the world when she was about 2 years old. She was singing songs from the 40s and 50s that I had never heard before. And I asked, my husband would say, "How does she know those songs?" I said, "I don't have a clue because we weren't playing them." And so I asked, my mom was over there one day and she was singing one of those songs. And my mom said, "Oh, okay. She's been here before." That's what she used to say.
Yeah.
She said, "Don't worry. She's going to forget those songs. It's going to go away."
Wow, wow. Because that's kind of how it goes, right? You carry in that wisdom from that knowing, you carry in that connection to experience that you've collected over many lifetimes, right? That doesn't go
You
away.
do.
You
You do.
maintain
And
that.
I think in my heart of heart, I think we have many a lifetime.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yes,
Absolutely. 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 So yeah, you've always been open. You've always been clued into that aspect of yourself, which
I
is
have.
fascinating.
I
Yeah.
have.
Yeah. When I first let me say when I first read this book, I finished the book and I said to myself, she channeled this book. It was like on some level, I knew that you brought through this book. And I said to myself, I have to reach out. So let me level set. Miss Ernestine is mother of one of my childhood friends. And so when I reconnected with that friend on Facebook and she shared that her mother had written a book. And I was like, oh, that's close to home. I gotta read this book. And something kept saying, you have to get this book. You have to get this book. You have to get this book. Because I would see the picture of it scroll come down my news feed and I would, dismiss it. But it kept coming, and my guide said, you have to read this book. And so I ordered the book and was excited for it to come. And it came, and I swear to you, I opened the package and I immediately started reading it. And I did not put it down until I was done with it that evening. It's a really quick read, but it's really packed. I really could not stop reading it because I had to know what was going to happen next. What was going to happen next? So, this begins as a story of a young girl who is captivated by this gentleman and doesn't have a clue why. He just stands out. He just stands out from the crowd. Just stands out from the crowd. What sparked your interest in him when you first saw him? And I think this was like at 16 or something
I
like
was
that when you
16. Yes.
yeah, when you saw him the first
It
time.
was, I was 16 and I was sitting on our front porch. We had, everybody had the front porches, and he was going across the street on the corner. And to this day, I don't know what sparked my interest. I just saw him. It was like time stood still when I saw him. And that was sort of what I call a Kodak moment. When I saw him, I never forgot him. Never ever forgot him. And I looked for him for the longest before I ever saw him again. And he was just simply going across the street. So I was thinking, at that moment, right now, I always think, should I have done something? Or should I have just run out of the street and introduced myself? Or should I just let him go like I did? Because
Mhm.
I wasn't going to do that anyway. I wasn't that type of girl. So he went away, and I never saw him again for about 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. What's fascinating in this story, as you continue to read this story, is that he saw you at a very young age as well, and he
Yes,
never approached you either. But there
and
was this
never approached me,
connectedness. Yeah. There was
and
this
never forgot
knowing.
me, never forgot
Right.
me.
Yeah. But it's funny because you guys went ahead and lived these lives, these separate lives, but your paths kept crossing. Your paths would continue to cross.
Our
Yeah.
path always crossed,
Yeah.
continuously crossed.
Yeah. So did the dreams happen? So you eventually you went through life, got married, eventually had kids and all of these different things. And did the dreams start before or after you got married?
The dream started. Most of the dreams started after I got married.
Yeah. Yeah.
After I got married. Before I got married, I crossed his path twice.
Yeah.
I crossed his path twice.
But you
The
guys
second
never
time,
connected.
we were real connected. The second time I saw him after 5 years, I think I saw him when I was 16, and then I saw him when I was 21.
Mhm.
And the moment I saw him and he saw me, our connection was so strong. I never felt anything like that before. And I could tell he felt the same way. It was really a strange feeling. Even though I didn't see him for years and years, um, every time I saw him, it was the same thing. And then I just started dreaming about him. He started coming to me in my dream.
Yeah. So you were married and you very connected with your husband and your family, very present
Yes.
in your
Mm-hmm.
marriage and all of those things. It wasn't like you sought something outside of that space. You just had this connection and really never understood why you had this connectedness, such a connectedness to somebody else. And what I thought was fascinating about this story is that you guys never hooked up before
We'd
you got
never.
married. Like even though the feelings were so strong, it was like something that said, we still can't connect. We can know about one another, but we still can't hook up and have necessarily have a relationship here. That's not what's on the table here. It's just this connectedness, this knowing of the presence of somebody else, right?
Right. We could never hook up.
Yeah.
Um, we could never, ever, ever hook up. Even
Was it
though
was it was it for lack of trying, or was it just something within you said, this is not what's supposed to be? This is not what I desire in this moment. Was it something in you that just said, don't
you
go
know,
forward with pursuing this thing?
something said don't go forward.
Yeah,
I didn't want to pursue it, but it was there.
yeah,
And it was so strong until we were jealous of each other. Like, for instance, if he saw me talking to another guy, if I saw him talking to another girl, it was like a real jealousy
yeah.
that I couldn't control, even though I wasn't having a relationship with him and he wasn't having one with me. We were jealous of each other. We had a
Interesting.
strong jealousy
Yeah.
that turned into anger sometimes.
Interesting, interesting. There is a school of thought that says, through many lifetimes, sometimes you share a connection with another person, your opposite, your twin, or whatever you want to call that, your divine counterpart, right? And then you get to a lifetime where you say, okay, let's see if we can navigate this thing, live in separate lives, but even though you live separate lives, there's still this draw. There's still this knowing of a connection that is shared. And so that person's that soul still has that same carries that same weight, that same impact, that same influence, that same draw to you as within other lifetimes when you've shared an actual incarnation together, living lives together. There's a school of thought that says, well, you still draw one another. You still draw to one another, but because of the dynamics you've chosen to experience within this lifetime, the particular design you've desired to experience for the sake of learning and experience, that actual physical relationship cannot be in this life in order for you to walk into the experiences that you desire to have. I think that's an interesting thing that fleshes itself out in the book. Yeah.
I think you're right because you're helping me to better understand that relationship, Angela.
Yeah.
I I still to this day don't really understand that connection that we had. And it was really strong all the way until the end and even beyond. Even beyond. I don't think for this person, for this spirit that we're talking about now, even beyond death, um, it's not over. It's still there, and that's what I don't really understand,
Mm,
but I will. So,
yeah.
and that's why I wrote this book. I think I started trying to write this book so that I could understand what was going on with me during the time of his death. I started with a notebook. I had a little notebook and I was just writing down all the dreams that I was having and what could they have meant. And I was like, why is this happening? So I started writing little notes down. And the next thing I knew, I was writing a book. So then I continued to write. and then it all the way to his death, to the last day. It's the end of the book. But it's still, I don't believe that that's still the end of our journey.
Yeah, I don't either. And so let me level set, and I'm gonna give like a very high level summary of what happened here. So Ernestine encounters this gentleman that sparks her interest, like immediately captivates her attention, and they seem to share some high level connectedness in a different plane, not necessarily in the physical plane, but their paths continue to cross throughout her life before and after marriage. Do their paths cross in the physical and in the spiritual realm, in the dream state? And so she begins, after having married, you start having these dreams where he begins to come to you. But it's
Yes.
not like she's just having these dreams of a longing to be with somebody else. He's coming for a specific reason, to check in and make sure she is okay. Like every time he approaches in this dream state, he's asking, "Are you okay?" To which she responds, if she's okay or not, right? And then
Right.
he proceeds to take her and show her different things. He starts to reveal different things to her in different ways. After sitting with this book twice, because I've read it now twice, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like he was a guide on some level, right? Like maybe in another life you guys have shared lives together where you were actually divine counterparts in a relationship in different lives. But in this particular life, he that dynamic still plays, but in a different way. So I felt like he came back to serve as guide in a sense. And it was almost as if when you got married, he was there to spark your attention, to get your attention, to show you different things. Because what I realized just today, and going back through my notes that I captured, is that when you finally got to a space where you started allowing yourself to enjoy life, when you really began to step into the fullness of you, did he step back and you stopped having all of those dreams about
Yes.
different things? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
when you really stepped into owning yourself and all that was you, and stopped. It seemed like, I won't say that you were living for everybody else, but it was kind of like the things that we all do, we go along with the program, the thing we feel like we have to do: raise a family, support a husband, do all of these things. It wasn't until you stepped into you, fully owning you, and began to really enjoy life, that he sort of faded into the background. I just kind of thought that
Yes.
was a fascinating that I just observed that today. Really, I thought that
I'm
was
glad you
fascinating.
noticed that because now you're making me see something that I didn't realize until
Yeah,
today. And when I asked a lot of people, most women that have read my book that I know, I will ask them, "What did you get from my book?" What they tell me they love the most and got from my book was what you said, when I stepped into being me.
yeah,
When they realized that I could live a full life in my 60s, and I had more fun in my 60s than I did in my 20s. That
right.
that made them realize that, you know what? I can just live my life forever. Uh, the fact that I never wore a ball gown until I was 63. I went to my first ball when I was 63 years old, and they realized that they don't have to go home and just sit at home and watch TV, that they can actually get out, go out, and enjoy their lives in their 60s. They can go to festivals and blues clubs and dance and have fun with their friends. That's what they got from my book.
Yeah,
To keep living.
right,
Don't ever stop living.
right,
And I think maybe he guided me to that point where I never stopped living.
right.
And look, I'm
So
going to a party tonight.
one of the things that you always say is that you are living your life and that you always end up living your dream. That's one of the things
Mm-hmm.
that you always say. I always see it before I live it. Well, here's the thing. Well, he would always show up. Nick is the character in this story that would always show up as in the dream state that you have this connection with. He would
Mm-hmm.
always show you something, and then you would eventually step into that in the
I would
physical.
step into my dream.
Yeah. He was
I would
always,
always step
yes.
into my dream.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why I kind of felt like on some level, maybe in this incarnation, maybe the design was he was to show you, or he was to serve as guide in this life to help you navigate this life and step into the fullness of you, because in this life you were to step into your truth, your
Yeah.
power, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting the dynamic, the way this plays out.
And Angela, you remember after I wrote the book, I told you of a dream I had after he passed.
Yes. Yes.
He came and showed me another place.
Yeah. He's always
Yes.
showing you the next place. And so when you walk into that space, it's almost like confirmation. Like, I know I'm in the just right space. I'm coming to this thing I just read today, when I was looking over my notes, when you connected with the church. So you had many things that happened throughout this book, and you guys got to get a copy of this book because it's really good. But there was a space where it was like almost like an angel, Miss Smith, showed up,
Yes.
and she walked you into the church. So you had this draw, this desire to connect with this Catholic church in the city of New Orleans. You really
Ye-
wanted to connect with that space. And it was like she showed up out of the blue, where you were working, and you guys connected, and she was the one who helped guide you to this particular church that you ultimately ended up connecting with. And then
Yes.
once you connect with this church, then you end up at a place where you are getting confirmed, because as a Catholic, you have to go through that confirmation
Mm-hmm.
process. But that place that you went to for the confirmation ceremony was the place that Nick had showed you, the beautiful place that he had showed you in your dream.
In my dream.
Yeah, it's almost like he was guiding you the whole way. And once you got to a space where you could stand on your own, he faded into the background, faded into
He
the
did.
background.
He did. Because once I started actually doing stuff on my own and having all this fun, and I didn't dream about him anymore.
So your daughter's friend was the one that told you out of the blue that he was in hospice. So this
Yes.
was this was one of those fantastical things that kind of happens when you are open. And I thought it was fascinating because you didn't even know that she didn't know him. It was
She did
almost
not
like
know him.
she was literally used in that moment to deliver a message, and that was it. She had nothing else to say to you the rest of the night. You were
Nothing.
wondering,
And
go
she
ahead.
didn't know him.
Right. So after him disappearing and you hadn't seen him in the physical for a very long time, I don't think you
Hmm.
even had seen him in the dream state. You were wondering what happened to him, where he was.
Yes.
And she showed up and answered your question. Can you talk
And
a little bit
answered
about
she
that?
she answered my question.
Yeah.
Actually, I was dreaming. You remember I had three dreams about him, and I actually drove home to find him, and I couldn't find him. So when I got back home to New Orleans, she came down and told me where he was. So I'm thinking he actually knew I was looking for him.
Mm, on some
And I
level.
didn't know her, and she didn't know I knew him, no, knew him, and she didn't know him.
Yeah. And you hadn't even asked about him. It's just like she kind of said this out of the blue.
Out of the blue, she was sitting next to me at the table, and she turned around and she looked really strange. And she looked at me and she told me that he was in hospital. And then she turned back around as if she said nothing and started back to talking to her husband.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
when they got back from the cruise, I had my niece to call her, and she said she didn't even remember telling me that. She didn't know what I was talking about.
Yeah. Because
So
in that
now
moment, she was, yeah,
that made me really upset. I was so I was distraught. And then a few days later, he had passed away.
yeah. It's like he came through just to get that message to you.
To get that message to me to let me know where he was.
Yeah. Had you ever had that experience happen before?
No, that was that was a first. I had never I had heard of things like that. One of my friends was a nurse at the hospital, and she works in surgery.
Hmm.
And she was always telling me these stories that people tell her how they left their bodies when they have surgeries and they leave their bodies and they go these places. So I called her and I told her about it. And she said he probably left his body and somehow managed to get her to tell me that he was in hospital.
So this is one of those fantastical things that can kind of happen, and I've had this happen once in my life. When I read that part of the book, it instantly took me back to that memory. I was sitting in Sunday school, and I had been doing some things, and it was like the Sunday school teacher was teaching her lesson, and all of a sudden she singled me out, and so it was almost like she had tunnel vision right to me, and she was looking me dead in my eyes, and she said what she had to say to me, and I was like, shit, did anybody else like see that, is she talking to everybody else? And nobody else flinched or even responded to what she said. It was almost like a clip or a split in time where she was just solely focused on me and giving me that particular message, and then she went right back to speaking about what she was speaking about in the Sunday school lesson, but nobody else even flinched. Yeah, I've had that happen one time. It's so many things mentioned in this book. So not only that, right? You
Mm-hmm.
bring up you bring up like astral traveling, which out of body experiences is it's
Yes,
so many different things that come up in this book, because when he would come to get you from those dream states, you would leave and go traveling
I
with
would.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
And I never knew what all that was until I
yeah,
met you guys.
yeah.
The traveling, all of that, I never knew what all of this stuff was that's been going on in my life forever. So I started to actually read and study about it now.
Mhm.
I read about this couple, I forgot the name. One is named Christian, the man's named Christian, and this lady is, I forget her name, Rhoda or something like that. But they had their story it coincided with this one. It
Mm.
was almost like the exact same story that I have.
Yeah.
I was like, someone would think I copied this, but it's almost exactly like my story. He married other people, she married other people, but they had this strong spiritual connection. So I ran up on that on my studies. So now you guys got me studying and everything, trying to see what is exactly am I experiencing, you know?
Yeah.
Because now I really want to know. I really
Yeah.
want to know all the things that I have experienced in my life. Now I really want to know more about them.
That's exactly the call of the moment, really. And I'll say, after I read this book, I reached out to Miss Ernestine directly. I like I reached out and I said, "You channeled this book. I went through all these things." And I said, after we had that exchange we had, then I said, I have this group. And if you're interested in connecting with a group, you can certainly connect with our group. And we just sit and share stories on a Sunday. And it's just a safe space where you have an opportunity to kind of flesh out some of the things that you've kind of experienced. And Ms. Ernestine took it up took me right up on that offer and connected with the group. And I love that you said, I'm like in my 70s and I'm just now sharing my stories, getting to a place where I feel comfortable really sharing my
Really
story. And I,
comfortable.
yeah,
It when you get to a place and you're talking to people that understand you and don't look at you like you are crazy. It is so refreshing to
yeah,
talk to people that really understand what I'm talking about
yeah.
and don't say I'm crazy and don't look at me strange,
Mhm.
like I need to be put away. But I just really enjoy talking to you guys because I can listen to them all day and they believe what I say and you believe what I say and I believe what you say.
Yeah.
It's so refreshing.
It is. And that's, I feel like that's the call of the moment. And you always say, you said it earlier in this conversation that you remember everything. And every time you say that, I think about Dolores Cannon talking about the first wave, second wave, third wave, and how those people who were part of the first wave are now getting to that space where they are sharing their stories. They recall everything. Like I have things that have happened in my life that I just don't remember, right? Because I feel like it doesn't necessarily serve this point in time, but I feel like there are many who came as part of that first wave who are the way showers who are paving the way and have these experiences that they are now feeling comfortable and feeling called to share because this is where we are as a collective. It's time for those stories to be shared. It's time to begin talking about these things because it's time to normalize it. Right?
Yes.
It's no longer the woo woo. This is what is. This is the nature. This is the true nature of life. And it's time for us to step into it and get beyond all these things that we thought life should be and stop listening to somebody else tell us what life must be and allow ourselves to experience life as it is, right? And in the way that it presents. Yeah. So let me ask this question. Are you sharing, have you started sharing these types of stories with your family? Are they open to listening to
I
some of these
share them.
stories?
Yes, I share them with my sister and my brothers now. And my sister believes everything I say because I think she has a little of that in her too.
Mhm.
And she told me the other day, she was like, I believe everything you say. She said, because I see ghosts. I said, you never told me that before. She said, I just can't tell anybody because I see ghosts walking through my house.
Yeah, that's nice. And everybody's receptive to it, just open to it. It's just part of
Yes,
who Ernestine is. Yeah.
who I am.
Yeah.
And the more people who know who I know who I am now.
Mm.
You learn who you are yourself. And that's a good thing to know who you are. That's a great thing because for a long time you don't know yourself. You get so wrapped up with living and taking care of your kids, and you don't you lose yourself in that. So you
Mhm.
don't get to know who you are. And I think when I moved here and started, I actually started to find myself, to see myself in a whole different light. I was used to be kind of shy, but I grew out of all of that. I could get up and dance in the middle of the floor with a bunch of people, and I didn't care anymore. I could get on the stage and sing. I never would have done that before, but now I can do that because now it's good to know who I am. I am an individual myself, and I have spent my life waiting on other people, my sisters, my brothers, my mom. Now this is my time to be me. And I do think Nick led me to this. I think he guided me to be who I am. And I thank him for that because uh, I've been knowing him my entire life.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think beyond before I even got to this life. I really do believe that. I
Mhm.
believe that we are. connected somehow in the universe. I think I've been with him before. Maybe it wasn't the same face or the same body, but I think we are spiritually connected. This is my belief. And I think that we will always be connected forever, even after we're no longer on this earth. I think eternally we will always be connected.
Yeah. Yeah. Love transcends time and space. Love
Mm-hmm.
transcends time and space. And what I love about this is it was never an interference with your relationship with your husband in the physical. This was something totally transcendent of that. This was something totally other. This never negated the love that you had for your husband in this life because you stayed
No,
with
it
him.
did.
Absolutely, it didn't take away from that. I think we have such a misconception about relationship and connectedness and love and who we allow ourselves to love and how we open to love in all its forms. It's almost like you shut yourself down because you feel like I can only have a love for this particular person when you limit the capacity of what love really is. Love transcends time and space, it's infinite. And so there is more than a love, more than enough love to be shared around. And just because it's being directed in one way to one person does not mean it cannot be directed in this way, and that to do so would take anything away from the love that exists over here. Love is unbounded, right? And I think that
You're right.
that's a great thing that comes out in this book is that your love was unbounded. And even though you guys weren't connected in the physical because you weren't supposed to be that otherwise it would have been orchestrated differently. Life goes as it goes. Life goes as it's supposed to go. There's no right and wrong. It just goes the way that it goes. So the way that it happened was the way that it was supposed to happen for you and him within this life. So yeah, I think just surrendering to that and opening to love. And one thing my guides say to me all the time is be open to love in all its forms because it presents in infinite ways. And so allow yourself to express love. And what I found is that as I open my heart and give and allow that love to flow through, that many people are touched. And I have many connections. And what I thought was such a mirror for me in reading your book is that as you opened to you, as you started to stand in your truth and really get connected with what it was to be you, then did you start attracting those people who were part of your tribe, those true friends that you could really connect with, because you connected with some ladies that you worked with who became really
Yes.
tight and they began to show you the city and walk you into new areas and new experiences. I think it's fascinating. I think it's a must read, really, if you are looking to step into what it is to be truly you. If you're ready to really discover what it is to be truly you and allowing yourself to be set free. And you definitely, like you said before, you speak to the capacity to live your life. No, it doesn't matter what age you are, you
It
can
does.
live your life. You can step
You
into
can
and
live
have
your
new
life.
experiences.
And the
Yeah.
ladies you spoke of, it's the lady I'm meeting tonight at the party.
Nice, nice. Nice, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
I have met people like me, you
Yeah,
know, my age, still living life.
yeah,
And I have two or three friends like that. And we all just have so much fun together.
yeah.
And they're picking me up tonight to go to the party.
I think it's fantastic is what I really think it is because I just remember seeing the pictures of you from Mardi Gras and with the glasses and the beads
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
your drink in hand and just enjoying everything. That picture itself speaks volumes to Ernestine and her capacity to really enjoy life and welcome life. So I think it's all great, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And most people tell me that's the most important thing that they got from my book.
Yeah.
was my
Absolutely.
ability at any age to enjoy my life
Yes.
and not to
Yeah.
let people tell me I'm too old or too this. I don't listen to people. I have a mind of my own now,
Yeah.
and I'm
That's
loving
good.
it. And I'm loving it.
Nice. Nice. So, any final words of wisdom that you would want to share with anybody who happens to come by and watch this video?
I would. My words of wisdom really is for them to really buy my book, not just to buy my book because I want to sell a book, but to buy my book and read my book and see all the wonderful things that life can bring you, at another age. And also, would love for people to know when they are in the presence of their soulmate.
So it's a lot of questions to be had, like reading this book. So whether you call it a twin flame, soulmate, or just
Yes,
being drawn to your divine counterpart, there's a draw that exists between souls, especially souls that have had or shared multiple lifetimes, or multiple experiences together. There's a what do I want to call it? There's a comfort level. There's just this draw that draws you to one another. And many people have had these experiences where they feel drawn across geographic regions to reconnect with somebody in a certain way. It's just because you've shared so many experiences together. There's just like this soul tie, or almost like a soul bond, that you guys are just partners that exist. You just have a partnership, this shared camaraderie that just is. It simply is. And that love that's shared between the two transcends time and space, because that's the nature of true love. It
it
transcends
is. It
time and
is.
space.
It
Yeah.
transcends time and space. And
Yeah.
when you meet that person, a lot of people don't know, but you know it. Like you don't even have to be like he was like along when I saw him when I was 16 years old. He wasn't right up on me. I saw him at a distance. But something about him just drew me to him. And I never forgot that moment. Never forgot it. And when I saw him again and I walked in that door and saw him and he saw me, it was like we got struck by lightning. It was so I can't explain it. But it's weird. And it's not weird.
Right. It's weird and it's not weird.
And it's not
Yeah.
weird. It's not
Yeah.
weird. I would have to explain it. And I'm sure a lot of people have had the same thing happen to them, but they just, as you say, they just wasn't open to it. You have to be open. You do have to be open to it. So I think I've always been open to things like this. So since I was open to it, I was able to grasp it. I was able to see it. Didn't know what it was, but I experienced it. And a lot of people can experience it too if they get more open to the universe and what's going on in the world. I think you have to just open yourself up to all possibilities. All things are possible, and understand that we don't know what's going on in this world. We don't know everything there is to know about this world. But I have learned a lot. And just reading my book again, I told you I had to read it again. I learned a lot about me, and I learned a lot about Nick, and I know that we will forever be connected. All
Yes.
throughout eternity, whoever he is, we will always be connected.
Well, it is a book packed with a lot of nuggets. It will definitely keep your attention. It is full of suspense because I spent the whole time saying, well, what happens next? I can't put it down for too long because I got to know what's coming next, what's going to happen next. It's that kind of a read, and you'll go through it really fast, but it's a lot in there and a lot of things to open your mind. So we mentioned astral travel is one of those, just out of body experiences, going to different places, dreams, using your dreams to navigate life, using your dreams to validate or confirm experiences. All of this is mentioned and covered within this book. And then, as Ms. Ernestine mentioned, just stepping into the truth of you, and then getting to a space where you allow yourself to just enjoy life. You get beyond the things that you think must be done as part of life, and you allow yourself to just live life as it comes in the moment. I'm gonna feel the fear and do this anyway. I'm just gonna take life as it comes and say yes, yes, to offer up a yes to life. So yeah, so thank you for having this conversation. I love having this conversation. I always love talking to you, and I love hearing your stories. And one thing we talked about in the group is Ms. Ernestine is writing down all of these stories because they come up and you just write them down. So I feel like
I do,
another
and I
book,
have a
another book
few
is
more to
coming.
share. Yeah.
Thank you so much for having this chat. And again, for anybody who happens to come by and watch this video, this is the book. It's called The Spiritual Affair. Miss Ernestine goes by E.T. Bowden. That's the author name on this book, and it's a quick read, as you can see, but it's a great read. It will definitely keep you entertained and keep you in suspense because you really want to know what's going to happen next. And it says a spiritual affair, and that is a very accurate title for this book, because this is what it was. It became. So with that, be open to love in all its forms. That's the underlying message, I feel like, in this book, being open to love in all of its forms, releasing your attachment to labels, what you think must be, and allowing yourself to be in the space to receive and radiate love in all its forms. So yeah, so with that, thank you for watching, and thank you.
And
Thank
thank
you,
you for
Miss
having me.
Ernestine.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
We are one, fractal of the original spark. And in this present age, do we still find us in many aspects, living behind a veil of forgetting, only to discover that we must make the choice to remember that we are whole and utterly complete by virtue of our very existence alone, with the presence of divine love as the core of the being we are, on earth as within the heavenly realms, with power, with grace, with the will to create our world as we desire, as we simply make the choice to know. But the present is not for the faint of heart. Staring into the face of life summons patience, openness, and a courageous humility, for we can only gain that which we endeavor to move toward. We can only reawaken to that which we choose to see through the eyes of truth. And yet, this stands as the challenge within this illusion, as belief therein draws to the forefront the flawed perception of separation, hindering access to knowing, keeping at bay the all's infinite potential. This is the assignment within this Earth School curriculum. So, our point of focus must be keen, heart and mind coherently aligned, for we will embody the purest essence of us only as we make the conscious choice to dive deep within the infinite waters of self-discovery, to explore and embrace through intention the glorious art of becoming through the subtle mastery of being.